Hello everyone. So, welcome to the class of business to business marketing. So, today we will continue from where we had left in the last class. So, in the last class we are discussing about the external and internal analysis that a company needs to do so that it can plan for the future, right. Now, when you talk about external analysis, we had seen how you can through a Porter's 5 block 5 forces model, like the different elements in the Porter's 5 force model, like threat of substitutes, threat of entrants, then there is a bargaining power of buyers and suppliers and new firms that might be coming into the market. So, all these things can impact any B2B firm, right. Similarly, we had also talked about a pestle analysis, which is political, economic, social, technological, all this, right, and legal and all. So, how that can affect a firm, right. So, companies need to understand that each of these forces, like the political force, the technological force, legal, economic force, that can impact severely the performance of a company. And if you are not you are not adaptable, or you are not adjusting accordingly, you are not building your strategies accordingly, there is a chance that companies might become obsolete. If I go to the situation, so this was where we were, what are the key issues we face in our business, and we said there are two situations, external and internal situation. So, which we can do it through a SWOT analysis and find out what exactly are they in. Now, if I tell you certain companies, for example, let us say if I write these names, right, Kodak, let us say Blockbuster. So, I do not know how many of you will remember Border, right, let us say the General Motors, right, Compaq, right. Many of these companies either have become obsolete, they are nowhere in the market today, or they have merged, or they have been taken over by somebody else. So, whatever the situation may be, these companies are either not performing well today. For example, General Motors became a bankrupt company, a company which is always the synonymous with cars and automobiles. In 2009 it declared bankruptcy, and then there was a new formation which happened, new GM and all, so which took the assets of the old one. So, as such, what happened, the General Motors company was lost its shine. Similarly, Border was a company very which was a bookstore, right, kind of a Blockbuster, a very interesting company. Today if I say, this company was such a huge company, and it completely went out of the market. And if I tell you the story, this company was approached by another company who wanted themselves to be taken over by Blockbuster, and that company who approached Blockbuster was nobody else than Netflix, right. You can imagine how things can change in this turmoil, in this volatile and dynamic market. So, if you are not adjusting to your situations, then there is a possibility that the company might become bankrupt. Who can think that Kodak, which had a 80% market share, would not be existing today, right. Compaq, now this company again, HP, Compaq, these are some big names, right, but where is Compaq today? Compaq was completely taken over by HP, right. So, as a result, in 2013, whatever the little they were using for the low end segments, after 2013 even Compaq's that part also was completely removed. So, these were some big names which are not existing. The why we are saying is, I am saying this is because you need to completely be aware and be alert that if you are in the B2B business, or any business for that, but especially I am talking about the B2B business, you need to be very alert and innovative all the while. Otherwise, there is a chance that your company might completely go out of the market. Okay, I will start with one more data set data that I will give you is, do you know that 1955, the Fortune 500 list, whatever was there, Fortune 500. So, this produces the best 500 companies list. So, this list which was there in 1955, today if you compare, 88% or almost 90% of these companies are not there, or they have merged, or scenario has completely changed. So, that means what? Now, only 10% of them are still remaining, the 90%, almost 88-90% are not there. So, you can see that kind of change that is happening in the last 50-60 years, it has happened, right. And these companies were Fortune 500 companies, that means who had a huge size and a huge distribution presence in the global market and everything, right. But now these companies do not exist, right. So, you have to understand that we need to be careful. For example, companies like IBM, which were once very big names, right, lost their shine in the market, although they exist, they are doing well, but the way IBM was performing, that is not there today, right. Now, today we will talk about internal analysis. So, here the manager assesses the company's internal capabilities and performance. So, how we are internally doing internally, that is very important. One approach is to use the Michael Porter's value chain model. Now, by using this model, you can categorize the capabilities used in the processes that create, market, develop, produce and deliver products, and finally sell it to the customers. I think I have explained this model earlier, but we will just have a look at it. So, it has two primary things, one is the primary activities and the other is the support activities. So, the primary activities of a firm, for example, is like inbound logistics, operations, that is production and operation, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and service. So, in a B2B case, service is very important, right. And what support activities are required to do the achieve the primary activities? Now, firm infrastructure, HR, human resource, technology and procurement. So, these things will create margins for the company, and anything, if the company is not able to do it well, if there is a weakness in the inbound logistics or in the marketing and sales or any point, then it is possible that the company will not perform, its internal capabilities are not being utilized well, and the company can go from a good position to a bad position. Okay. The one thing that we use in management very largely is SWOT analysis. Now, SWOT analysis is a or we say a classic SWOT matrix. Here the managers aim to ensure that the strategy leverages internal strengths to pursue external opportunities, right. So, what it does, it tries to understand the weaknesses, strength, opportunities that are present in the market, right, and which are connected to the industry or the business that we are in, right. So, every time the government policies change, the technological changes are happening. So, all these things will lead to different kinds of requirements, and no matter how developed you are, you have to keep abreast of the latest situations. Okay. So, the analysis reveals a series of issues that the strategy must address. What are they? The first, the best role for new products and services. So, what role will new products and services hold, right? So, how important it is and how you are doing it. For example, if you see, there have been companies which were almost going to do were losing the market share and doing in a bad position, and from there they again did well. One of them is 3M. 3M is a very popular company which was in the verge of collapse, but then slowly it did well and it grew from and grew to be a very dynamic and very innovative company, and it is considered one of the most innovative companies in the world, right. Whether new partners need to be acquired. So, if you are talking about a SWOT analysis or you are talking about issues that the strategy must address. So, one is you said about products and services. So, what products and services should we make? So, for example, as I always give this example, now Castrol is in the business of lubricants. Now, with the government's focus on, let us say more on EV and everything. So, should Castrol change its business, start looking into new products and services? Should they think of new, if they can't do it themselves, should they think of an organic growth or inorganic growth? Now, what should they do, right? In order to have better sales, should they create new partners? Now, what should they do? What new market segments the company might enter? So, if I give you an example of the renewable energy products, right, or green products for largely said. Now, what are the segments that one can enter into? Because this is a completely almost a niche area, right. So, it is not very much untapped. So, if you are talking about a company like, let us say, Tata Power or Adani Green. Now, this company, how would it segment its market? Just imagine if you are thinking, so let us say Tata Power, which is a big brand, big name and all, and or let us say Adani, now Adani Green. Now, how would they segment, which target segments should they cater to, and how should they segment even their markets, right. Now, these are questions which management graduates or people in the industry should be answering it, right. Which customer segments are contracting? Some segments they are not performing well or they are not doing well. So, is it even viable or is it justifiable to be in that industry, right, or to be in that segment? The third question that we were doing is how can we best compete? Now, finally managers tackle the strategy formulation itself, the statement describing the strategy and how the company proposes to achieve it. Now, here managers decide on a course of action. Now, a course of action that will create a sustainable competitive advantage by distinguishing the company's offering from competitors and ultimately create a better performance, superior financial performance. Now, what courses of action, what kind of actions you need to develop, right. So, finally whatever you have to you develop plan, but finally implementation and execution is very important. So, how would you implement and how would you execute your plan, right. So, execution is very important in the ground, how are you doing it. So, sometimes you may plan very well, but execution might not happen and that can maybe that will not work well for you. So, the strategy must respond to the following questions in order to create better actions, right. So, which customers or markets will be target? So, which customers, what is the target segment, right, which market. So, one thing is the Ansof's matrix, if you remember, you can look at the Ansof's matrix where it talks about new product, new market, existing product, existing market. So, how do we deal with it? Ansof's matrix, that is a very popular which is generally used, Ansof's matrix. So, market and product, let us say, right, new, existing, and this is new, existing, let us say. So, how do you deal with it? What is the value proposition that distinguishes us? Now, what is that thing that separates us from the herd? Now, how are we different from others? So, let us say if everybody is producing steel, then why should I buy Tata Steel, right, or why I should buy JSW Steel, right, or for that why I should buy even the government of India's Steel Authority of India Limited's product. So, how do you distinguish yourself? So, what is that value that you give? So, certain products may be like commodities, for example, steel, there is very little to differentiate, but still when you hear a Tata Steel maybe you feel better, right. Why? Because the point is maybe the Tata's brand image is there is a carryover of the brand image of Tata into the product, but actually maybe the steel is maybe the same, I do not know, but still the value proposition that it creates a different link altogether. When you talk about LML Vespa, for example, LML, there was a vehicle, now very sturdy vehicle which used to be there in the past. Now, that was the value proposition, that the sturdiness, Bajaj, sturdiness and a feeling of belongingness that comes to you. Similarly, what value proposition that distinguishes us? This is a very important question, right. So, that is where there is another book called again by the same authors which I had said in the last lecture, called Positioning. So, how would you position your product, right? What is that value proposition that you want to give, right? What key processes give us a competitive advantage? So, what are the technology, what kind of process are we utilizing that will give us a competitive advantage, right? And finally, what are the capabilities and resources required to excel at these processes? Now, there are few models which are very important. So, for example, Michael Porter's again generic strategies and the blue ocean strategy, just to talk about two of them, there might be many more, but just two, right. So, for example, Porter's generic strategies model says that there are two things, three things that are very important. One is cost leadership, one is differentiation, and the other is focus. So, sometimes it can be like this: cost, differentiation and focus. So, it looks like kind of a shape, U shaped, right. So, what happens is companies can go for a cost leadership, or they can focus on the cost of the product that they are selling or they are manufacturing, and similarly they can look at how can they create differentiation, what can they do to be different from others in the market, right. So, there can be a differentiation strategy, there can be, and they can this is what he says. So, the source of competitive advantage versus the scope, if you look, so on basis of cost, differentiation and focus, you can think how you can create new image in the market through a better cost leadership, or through a different kind of product and service, or by focusing on certain key issues, right, of the customers. Similarly, you have another strategy which is very popular, is the blue ocean strategy, which was given by Chan, Kim and Mauborgne. Now, what is this? What are they saying? It is about creating and capturing the uncontested market space. Now, see, generally we divide it like the red ocean strategy and the blue ocean strategy, right. So, red is like the color of blood. So, there is a competition, huge competition, and there is a cutthroat competition here, right, cutthroat competition. So, large number of players are there in this segment, and they are cutting each other. There is a price war, they are fighting for a market share, and there is a price war, and as a result there is a possibility that some of the competitors or some of the players might not exist, because here the larger one, or the one with the huge capital and being innovative, the one who is more innovative, he will survive, right, and many companies might not survive, and they will lose their market share, and they may go bankrupt, right. So, this is a red ocean strategy, as the name suggests. A red is a blood is red, right. So, similarly you have a blue ocean strategy now, which says think slightly different and try to find out a space where not much of people are there, or not much of competition is there, and try to enter into that. For example, you see today almost all the startups, right, they are understanding this, and they have created a kind of a blue ocean strategy, right. For example, if you look at companies who are providing you maids, services, right, or domestic help services, right. Now, that is something which nobody had thought of. So, today that is a new business altogether. So, you want certain, let us say, products, so you can even buy it and take it on rent. So, there are sites available for it. So, even there are sites which will help you to take a photograph with dates and time, right. Now, these are some specialized apps, specialized businesses which are, for example, one more that comes to mind is Spotify, for example. Now, these are areas where not much of competition was there, and slowly they try to create a niche and develop there, right. Similarly, the same thing happens in B2B firms also, right. So, how can you develop or create a new product for a niche market, a market which is less known, and where you can charge a premium and can be the leader in that market. Next thing that we will talk about today is the balance scorecard. Now, this is a very popular, one of the most popular things that has ever been discussed, right. So, it was developed by two professors from Harvard, and balance scorecard, Robert Kaplan and David Norton. So, they provide managers with a comprehensive system for converting a company's vision and strategy into a set of performance measures. So, whatever your vision and strategy are there, how you can convert into performance measures, that is what this balance scorecard says, right. Now, as I said, it is considered to be one of the most popular, right, models that has been developed, right. Now, let us take a case. Think of the balance scorecard as the dials and indicators in a aeroplane, right. So, aeroplane cockpit, you must have seen that when the pilot is driving, flying a plane. So, think about that dials and indicators which he is surrounded with. Now, for the complex task of navigating and flying an airplane, pilots need detailed information about many aspects of the flight, like they need information on fuel, how much of fuel is there, what is the air speed, what height we are in altitude, then the destination, and other indicators that summarize the current and predicted environment. Reliance on one instrument can be fatal. Similarly, the complexity of managing an organization today requires that managers have to view performance from several areas simultaneously, so that they can keep a track of what is happening. For example, in the airplane, how much fuel, how much of what distance are we in, what height we are in, everything matters, right. Similarly, here we need to see how we are growing, where we are doing well, where we are not doing well, what kind of products of us are in demand, which products are not being accepted by the market, all these things. Next thing is, if you look at the balance scorecard, allows managers to look at the business from four important perspectives: financial, customer, internal business processes perspective, and learning and growth perspective, right. So, these 4 perspectives are very important to understand the balanced scorecard. Now, the first one, financial perspective. Now, what it says is financial performance measures indicate whether the company's strategy, implementation and execution are contributing to the bottom line improvement, that is the improving the profitability of the company or not, right. How do we look to shareholders? So, now for example, from a company's perspective, it is very important to think now how do we contribute to our shareholders, how do we look to our shareholders. So, what kind of benefits are we giving to our shareholders? Now, the examples could be, for example, long term, short term goals could be, now financial growth could be a long term goal, and short term goals could be increasing your customer base, increasing the order size, increasing the frequency of business, increasing your profitability. So, what measures would you take to do this? The number of customers, the average sale size, frequency of sale, and return on investment and return on equity. Let us say these are some of the measures which are helpful. So, what is the final target? Now, there will be increased percentage of customers, increased percentage of the order size, and percentage increase in the frequency, and even the percent increase in the profitability of the company, right. Second thing is the customer perspective. Now, in the balanced scorecard it talks about the second perspective, which is customer. Then the business unit identifies the market segments first, then it will target and the value proposition, it will create a value proposition. Now, how the firm proposes to deliver competitively superior and sustainable value to its customers is something that is very challenging for the B2B firm, right. Now, how do customers see us? This gentleman is thinking, how do customers see us? So, what is the perception of the customers, right, for us? Now, for example, when you talk about a Siemens, for example, or an ABB or a Bharat Forge. Now, these are companies which have created a very good perception in the market, right, for themselves in the eyes of the customer, but not necessary that for all the different products they might be doing very well. Maybe overall they are good, but for a particular segment or a particular kind of product there might be some other companies which are not so known, but they are performing better and customers are preferring them, because as you know that B2B is a rational market and here only the brand will not work. So, these are very important things, right. Now, when you talk about how the customer looks at us, so the customer satisfaction is my long term goal, and what can be the short term goals? Now, increased in satisfaction, increasing referrals. If I am a purchaser, I am referring the name of my supplier to you. So, that is in one way I am promoting through a word of mouth, and increasing the market share. These are my short term goals. What measures are we using? The number of customers, average sale and market share, and again the target is to increase it, right. So, customer perspective. Third thing is internal business process perspective. Now, here it describes the business processes that have the greatest impact and includes the measures of what the company must do internally to meet its customers' expectations. Now, here the gentleman is asking, what must we excel at? So, what are the things that we need to do better so that we can perform better financially, we can perform better in terms of the customer's perception, we can improve. So, what are those things to be done? And the long term goal is quality improvement, right. So, the balanced scorecard says that in order to achieve a internal business process perspective, to improve with that, you need to improve the quality. So, quality has to continuously improve. Now, what are my short term goals? The short term goals could be like, for example, reducing your cycle time, right. It could be like reducing your number of defects per let us say number of defects, and reducing the cost. Besides this, there could be many more, for example, reducing my improving my flexibility, agility in the market, and helping in the skill development or new product development, or bringing in new designs. That could be there, just few of them I am mentioning. What are the measures? Time to market, time to deliver, defects in parts per million, right, cost of wastages and rework, warranty costs, etc. What is my target? To reduce these things. So, to reduce my defects, my cost and all, that is my aim, right. The last is the learning and growth perspective. Now, this component of the balanced scorecard highlights how the firm's intangible assets like human capital, information capital and organizational capital must be aligned to its strategy to achieve the long term goals. So, what is the question the gentleman is asking here? How can we continue to improve and create value? So, this is it is a constant endeavor to improve the situation the company is in, right. Now, what are the long term goals in this case? Now, for example, continuous learning and growth. So, continuous learning. So, okay. So, can we think of certain examples where companies have shown to be very good learning companies? There are absolutely very good examples in this world. So, there are companies, not only Indian companies, but there are also global companies which have Intel, for example, has been a continuous learner, right, and they have grown immensely, right. Then you have for example, if you tell me in India, there can be again many companies, for example, Info Edge, right, I can give a name, right, continuous learning and growth. So, they learn what is the customer perspective, the market, how the market is doing, and they are continuously growing, right. So, continuous growth and continuous learning is a very important part, because it also cuts your cost of production, it improves your visibility in the market, your skill in the for developing the product, everything. Now, what are the short term goals? Increasing your core skills. So, my core skills, for example, Nike says my core skill is marketing, let us say design, marketing, right. Similarly, the core skill of a company could be fabrication. Bharat Forge says fabrication, for example, or somebody says my core skill is faster delivery, right. So, the next thing in the short term goal is the increased systems availability. Now, here we are talking about the overall processes of the company, not only systems in the sense, all kind of technology processes that are required for development and production of the products and services. Now, as a measure, how much is available and what is not available to us. So, we can understand by counting or getting an information about what kind of system availability is there with us and what is not available to us, right. And our target is to reduce this percentage, so that more and more things are available and there is a proper streamlining in the process. That means, the work is never halted and it goes in a streamlined approach, right. So, if it is high, there is a disturbance in the process of the work and it can hamper the flow of the process. So, our objective here, target is to reduce it, right. So, with this, all these 4 important points, we can understand that if you look into these 4 things, the balance scorecard gives you a very holistic picture. What you can do is you can add in more short term goals and all, and you can try to bring in the measures that are used to compute it and what is your target finally. So, by adopting this strategy, it has been found that balance scorecard has been a very helpful strategy for many companies in order to improve their performance, right. And there are number of programs and conferences happen on this area, where managers are trained how to improve, how to understand balance scorecard and how to improve upon it, right. So, that is it. We will have this it for whatever we had we have discussed for the day, and I think you must have been clear with what I wanted to tell, and we will wind up this lecture here. We will meet in the next lecture, right. So, thank you very much and have a nice time.